Hello, so let's start with the shadow. I'm going to use bright clear violet to paint the shadow of the lighthouse and of the wall. Don't forget to blend it very well with a lot of water on the lighthouse when you near the light part, the brightest part of the lighthouse. Now I'm painting the roof with vermilion color. I put it all over the roof. I just leave some white spaces for windows. And now the same with vermilion color, I'm painting another roof that we have near the lighthouse. Now to paint the lines of the lighthouse, I'm going to use permanent red. I use more water on the brightest part of the lighthouse, and I use more paint on the part of the shadow. And now, while the painting is still wet, I'm going to leave the color a little bit on the brightest part of the lighthouse. I just wet the brush and I dry it with a paper towel, and after I leave the color on the brightest part. So here you can already see that the lighthouse is going to have this volume that we need. Obviously we need to add more shadow, but it's already looking fine. So the key, the secret is to have that combination of the light of the brightest part and of the shadow. Now I'm working on the roof using quinacridone permanent rose here and adding some red violet on the shadow. Now I'm going to make it a bit brighter with again with permanent red. And adding the shadows with bright clear violet on this roof. For the first layer of heels, I'm going to mix yellow ochre and yellow green. Mixing it and I'm putting it on the paper. In some parts I put more yellow ochre, in some parts I add more green color, and I blend it well right down on the paper. Now with a big flat brush, I'm going to work on the sky. Here I'm using cerulean blue. I'm only going to use cerulean blue. I would recommend actually if you want to have if you don't want to have any clouds or something like that and you want to have clear blue sky, you just need to first wet the paper and after add the color. Here you can see that I decided to make kind of clouds. So what I did, I just used a clean brush with a lot of water and I diffused the sky color down to the roofs of the houses. So because I didn't have any color on the brush when I did it, the water like played this game with cerulean color, and I have kind of nice and soft clouds. For the first layer of the sea, I mixed a little bit of cerulean with yellow green, and I left a part of a white pepper near the hills. These are going to be the foam. Now I'm using just any dark color I have on my palette to cover this wall of the house and to cover the window. It's going to be dark, so I'm using indigo with this mix of the colors I have on my palettes, and the same I do with the windows. Now I'm going to make kind of reflection on the lighthouse with some dark colors you have on your palette with some violet and indigo. Just put a line on the lighthouse like I'm doing on the video, and after difuminate it. Now mixing the yellow ochre with the blues I have mixed on my palette, I'm going to cover the top and paint the rest of the windows on the house. Here I'm working on the wall again with the same blues I have on my palette, adding a little bit of pink, a little bit of ochre, and now on the top I'm going to add the darkest part, the shadow. For this I mixed burnt umber with the blues I have on the palette. And here again I'm using the burnt umber to cover this part, and after we're going to add the shadow with some darkest color. Using the same burnt umber, I'm going to paint the shadows of the hills, and after we're going to add more shadows with some darker color. You'll just paint some random lines, and don't worry about that, you don't have to think much. And after you blend them, here with mix of Van Dyke Brown and Indigo, I'm adding more shadow on the Lighthouse. Here I'm working with olive green, and here I mix olive green with burnt umber. Now with red, brown and sepia I'm going to add more shadows on the hills. I difuminate the edges well, and I also lift up the color in some parts so it doesn't look boring. In some parts I also add shadows on wet techniques. Now mixing again indigo and yellow green, I'm going to add some color to the sea, and I'm trying to make it a bit more intense near the foam. Here I'm using peacock blue, and with every layer on the sea I leave some I can paint it parts on the center. Now using indigo with the mix of the colors on my palette, I'm going to add more shadows and paint the windows. And this wall I'm going to make it darker. Here I'm using burnt sienna. Now I'm going to work a bit more on the shadow of the lighthouse with peacock blue, and it's becoming like a bit of violet color because of the red we have, but it's okay, it looks nice, so leave it like this. Here adding more shadow as well with some indigo. Here I'm adding a bit more of definition with burnt sienna. Here using indigo again. And again with indigo adding more shadows. Even on the hills, I'm adding indigo on the shadows. Now I'm using red violet to add a bit of color here. And here as well, adding a bit more of the shadows with red violet and bright clear violet. Here using more indigo color. Now mixing indigo with ultramarine deep, I'm going to add the shadows on the sea. Now I decided to add a little bit of burnt umber here on the hills and a little bit of olive green. And now adding some white accent dots, my favorite part, with white gouache. That's all for today. Please remember that you can find the outline for this painting on my Etsy shop, and also I just started the Patreon channel, so you may just subscribe there and you will have all the outlines and a few extra lessons that are not available on YouTube every month. Thank you for your attention. Hope to see you soon again, and bye.